3 months had passed since I stood under those blazing red flame trees, diploma in hand, finally done with high school. We were 18, fresh out of the caps and gowns, and the world felt wide open for the first time. That day, when Daniel pulled me into a hug right in the middle of the crowd, no hesitation, no looking around, Lisa and Robert waiting by the gate with genuine smiles, I felt something shift. Not some big Hollywood freedom with fireworks and swelling music. Just light, like someone had finally cut the invisible chain that had been wrapped around my neck for 18 years. My parents weren't part of those big moments anymore. They'd chosen distance, and I'd chosen to keep walking. That summer, we didn't have some grand adventure planned. No Europe backpacking, no wild parties. Just 2 18-year-old guys, a few beat-up boxes, and one solid decision. We were going to start living for real. We found a tiny studio apartment in a new city, Columbus, where nobody knew our names, where we could hold hands without scanning every corner first. And just like that, the new chapter started. In a 170-square-foot room that somehow felt bigger than any house I'd ever lived in. I stood in the middle of it, still gripping the key, heart pounding like I'd just crossed into another dimension. The place was small. I'd measured it the second the landlord handed over the keys, but right then it felt endless. No bleach smell from Mom's cleaning sprees, no heavy footsteps from Dad on the stairs, no side eye when I came home late, just old wood, fresh paint, and summer sunlight sneaking through the thin curtains. Daniel came in behind me, hauling 2 cardboard boxes with busted corners. He set them down, kicked the door shut. The lock clicked softly, like it was sealing a promise. This was ours now. I dropped to my knees on the hardwood, popped open the first box. Old books, some worn clothes, my laptop, a few random essentials. Not much. I grabbed a damp rag. The landlord said the floor was newly painted but still dusty, and started wiping in slow circles. Daniel watched for a minute, then knelt beside me. He didn't grab a rag, though. He just wrapped his arms around me from behind, chin on my shoulder, warm breath against my neck. "Kinda tiny," he murmured, voice rough from a full day of hauling shit. "But it's ours." I froze, rag still clutched in my fist. My pulse wasn't racing from fear. It was this weird, electric rush. Real freedom. No one looming to check if I'd missed a spot. No one nagging why I wasn't at the desk studying already. Just Daniel's arms, steady but not tight, letting me know he was right there. I turned my head a little, cheek brushing his. "You scared? Like, what if we run out of cash? What if the place feels too small? What if everything?" He let out that low, familiar chuckle, the one that always settled something inside me. "Hell yeah, I'm scared. But being scared alone? That's way worse. And I'm not alone anymore." He let go, stood, pulled me up with him. We both looked around. The double bed shoved against the wall, a tiny window above it looking out on a narrow alley, trash bins and rusty neighbor bikes below. The one new thing we'd bought, a cheap wooden table right by the window. On it, Daniel's sketch pencils, his pad, my laptop. No real curtains yet, no bedside lamp, no mini fridge, but every inch of it was ours. Daniel crossed to the other box, dug around, pulled out a small canvas, the one he'd painted of me back in high school library. Sunlight hitting my hair just right, turning it gold. He taped it to the wall with clear tape. "First thing up," he said, turning to me. "So no matter how small this place gets, you remember you're still the best-looking thing in my world." I stepped over, slid my arms around him from behind the way he'd done to me, pressed my face into his back, breathing in the faint sweat and acrylic paint clinging to his t-shirt. "You know, I never thought I'd have something like this," I whispered. "A place where I can just mess up, be messy, not have to be perfect." He turned in my hold, cupped my face with both hands, thumbs brushing under my eyes. "Then mess up, be messy. I like you messy. I like you real." We stood there a long time in the empty room, nothing but distant traffic outside and the ceiling fan rattling overhead. Then Daniel leaned down, pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "Let's crash early tonight. You've got the 4:30 a.m. shift at the coffee shop tomorrow." I nodded. Yeah. And you've got the framing shop at 8. We both laughed. Tired, happy laughs from two 18-year-olds who'd just moved into their first place together. No parents, not much savings, no 5-year plan. Just us being honest with each other. I went back to finishing the floor. Daniel dropped onto the bed, flipped open his sketch pad, started drawing. Probably me right then, kneeling, hair a wreck, shirt sticking with sweat. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. The quiet between us wasn't heavy. It was warm. When the floor finally gleamed, I stood, stretched. Daniel looked up, grinned. All done, landlord? I grinned back. All done. Now bed. We climbed in together. The mattress creaked under our weight. Daniel tugged the thin blanket over me, then spooned up behind, chin on my shoulder again, breath steady against my neck. Night, Michael. Night, Daniel. I closed my eyes. The fan kept rattling. Outside, Columbus hummed. Cars, distant voices, a dog barking somewhere. But in our 170-square-foot world, for the first time, I felt like I actually owned a place. Not because it was fancy or big, but because here I could be me, imperfect, unafraid, and loved. I smiled into the dark, fingers laced with Daniel's. I woke up at 4:15 a.m., before the alarm even had a chance to buzz. The room was still pitch black, except for the faint gold stripes from the streetlight slipping through the thin curtains onto the floor. Daniel was out cold beside me, one arm slung over my waist, breathing slow and even. I carefully lifted his hand, leaned down, and brushed a soft kiss across his forehead before slipping out of bed. The bathroom was tiny, just enough space for the sink, the shower head, and a foggy mirror. I splashed cold water on my face to snap awake. When I looked up, there was an 18-year-old kid staring back. Dark circles under his eyes, hair a total mess, but the corners of his mouth were turned up in a real smile. Not the polite one I used to practice in the mirror back home. This one was honest. The smile of someone about to start his very first morning shift. I pulled on the brew and sketch uniform. Black polo with the logo stitched on the chest, black jeans, beat-up sneakers. Before I left, I turned back to look at Daniel. He rolled over in his sleep, hugged the pillow I just vacated, and mumbled something I couldn't catch. I smiled, closed the door as quietly as I could. Bus 12 pulled up at the end of the alley at 4:45. I climbed on, took a window seat, popped one earbud in. Columbus was still half asleep. Sodium yellow streetlights, a couple of delivery trucks rumbling past, other early shift workers sitting quietly like me. I stared out the window, heart thumping a little faster. Not fear, excitement, because today I was going to earn money with my own hands. Brew and sketch opened at 5. Maya, the owner, short purple hair, silver hoop earrings, was already there, wiping down the counter. She spotted me and broke into a wide grin. Morning, Michael. Ready for day one? I nodded, trying to sound steadier than I felt. Ready. She pulled me behind the counter, ran through the espresso machine, the milk steamer, how to read the orders on the screen. You're on morning shift with Owen today. He growls a lot, but he's a softie underneath. You'll be fine. Owen, tall, broad, tattoos snaking down both arms, gave me a quick nod. Hey kid, just don't dump scalding milk on yourself and we're good. I managed a weak laugh. I'll try. The shift started. First customer. Suit guy, black coffee, no sugar. I nailed the pour, but my hands shook and I sloshed a little over the rim. Owen wiped it up without a word. Second customer. Soy latte. I overdid the foam way too much. Maya laughed from the pastry case. Everyone does that the first time. Take it easy. By late morning, the rush hit hard. I was everywhere. Taking orders, steaming milk, wiping tables, washing mugs. My hands got hot from the constant machine contact. By 11, I'd spilled 3 drinks, scorched a batch of milk in the pitcher, and burned the back of my right hand trying to save a cappuccino that was about to overflow. When my shift finally ended at 1, I collapsed into a chair in the back kitchen. Right hand bright red, a couple of blisters already forming. Maya handed me a cold water bottle and a damp cloth. For a first day? You did great. Tomorrow'll feel easier. I nodded, forcing a smile. Thanks, Maya. Outside, the sun was brutal. I walked the 2 blocks to the bus stop, legs aching, back screaming from 6 straight hours on my feet. But in my pocket was an envelope with $18 in tips, crumpled ones and quarters, and my first paycheck would hit at the end of the week. My money, earned with sweat. Daniel was already waiting at the stop. White t-shirt with a smudge of green paint on the sleeve, hair messy from the wind. The second he saw me, he jogged over, eyes scanning me head to toe, worry etched across his face. You okay? You look wiped. I nodded, but when he reached for my hand, I winced without meaning to. He dropped it instantly, gently turned my palm up. The back of my hand was angry red, blistered in spots. Jesus, babe, is that a burn? Just a little one. Getting to know the espresso machine the hard way. Daniel didn't say anything else. He tugged me down onto the bench, took my hand in both of his. His fingers were cool. He must have just washed up at the framing shop. Slowly, carefully, he bent and kissed each knuckle, one by one, from thumb to pinky. Soft, deliberate, like he was handling something fragile and priceless. Every kiss sent my pulse higher. Not from pain. From the feeling of being taken care of being seen as a real person, not some machine that had to be flawless. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so clumsy. He looked up, eyes bright in the sunlight. Clumsy? You're working. You're out there living. I'm so fucking proud of you, Michael. The bus pulled up. We climbed on, sat pressed together. Daniel kept my hand on his thigh, thumb occasionally brushing over the burned skin. I leaned my head on his shoulder and closed my eyes. My sweat mixed with the faint acrylic smell still clinging to him. The scent of 2 guys trying, struggling, building something real. Back at the apartment, Daniel unlocked the door and pulled me inside. He grabbed the little tub of aloe cream from our stuff, sat me on the bed, and dabbed it gently over the burn. His hands were shaking. I could tell he was holding back a lot. Does it hurt bad? He asked quietly. Not too much, I said. But I feel like I'm actually alive, Daniel. Tired, sore hands and all. And it's my choice. No one forcing me. No one watching. He stopped, looked straight into my eyes. I know, and I love you for it. For walking out of that old cage even though you knew it might hurt. I leaned in and kissed him. Not rushed. Slow, grateful, exhausted and happy all at once. His lips were soft, tasting faintly of salt from the long day. When we pulled apart, I whispered, "Thank you for waiting at the bus stop." Daniel smiled, tugged me down so we were lying together. I'll wait for you every day. Doesn't matter what time you get back, or how wrecked you are. We curled up, arms around each other, quiet. Outside the window, a bus rumbling past the alley, kids laughing somewhere down the block, the ceiling fan rattling overhead. And in our 170-square-foot room, with my burned hand still stinging, I felt, maybe for the first time, my own self-respect settle in solid and sure. Not because I was perfect, but because I was trying, and because Daniel was right here, ready to kiss every single one of my wounds. I opened my email the second we got back to the apartment. Right around 7 p.m. Daniel was in the shower, the steady rush of water echoing from our tiny bathroom. I dropped onto the single wooden table, the only real table we had, flipped open my laptop, and my fingers shook just a little as I clicked into the inbox from Ohio State. Subject line, Admissions Decision Michael Carter. My heart slammed against my ribs. Not because I thought I'd get rejected. I knew my scores were solid enough for the economics program. No, it was that old ghost still hanging around in the back of my head. Anything below 95 was failure. Dad used to say it like it was gospel, and for way too long I believed him. I clicked. The screen filled with the breakdown. English, 98 out of 100 math, 96 out of 100 science, 97 out of 100 social studies, 99 out of 100 elective, Art History 94 out of 100 overall. 96.8/100. Accepted to the main program, partial scholarship included. But art history, the one class I picked just because I was curious about the paintings Daniel spent hours on, 94. That number hit like a dull knife sliding under my skin. Not because it was bad. Because it wasn't perfect. Not 100. Not 98. Not even 95. Just 94. A not good enough stamped right there in black and white. Cold sweat prickled at the back of my neck. My fingers twisted into the hem of my t-shirt. Fabric bunching up under my nails. Pulse roaring in my ears. Breathing came short and sharp. The room suddenly felt smaller, air thick enough to choke on. I could hear Dad's voice in my skull, flat and cold. Anything under 95 is failure, Michael. You don't get to fail. I shot up so fast the chair tipped backward with a loud clatter. The laptop stayed open, scores glaring. I started pacing the tiny space. 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. Hands clamped over my head, nails digging into my scalp. No. How is it just 94? I tried so hard. Why isn't it enough? Daniel stepped out of the bathroom, hair dripping onto his bare shoulders, wearing nothing but his gray boxer briefs. He clocked everything in half a second. The overturned chair, me circling like a caged animal, face drained white. Michael! I couldn't answer, just shook my head, eyes glued to the screen. He crossed the room in 2 strides, reached past me, and snapped the laptop shut. Screen went black. Then his hands were on my shoulders, turning me to face him. Look at me, he said, voice low but steady. Michael, eyes on me. I tried. Everything blurred. Tears I hadn't even noticed starting to spill. Daniel pulled me in, arms wrapping tight around me. One hand stroked through my hair, the other cupped the back of my neck, guiding my head to rest against his shoulder. Breathe, he whispered. Slow. In with me, out with me. I followed his rhythm. In for 1, out for 2. In for 3, out for 4. My body was still shaking, but the tremors started to ease. He didn't let go, just held me there in the middle of the room, silent, letting me feel the steady warmth of his chest, the calm thump of his heartbeat under my ear. After what felt like forever, I managed a broken whisper. I got 94 in art history. Overall 96.8. I got in, but 94. Daniel squeezed a fraction tighter, then eased back just enough to meet my eyes. And? He asked gently. And? I don't know. I feel like I failed. I studied late, I worked extra shifts, I don't get how it's still only 94. He brushed his thumb across my cheek, wiping away the tear tracks. Remember the time you burned the soup? You cried because you felt so clumsy. What did I tell you? I gave a weak nod. You said, mistakes can taste good too. Exactly. He smiled, small and soft. Same thing here. A 94 isn't failure. It's just a number. One number. You still got accepted. You still got scholarship money. You're still Michael, the smartest, kindest guy I've ever known. A score doesn't change any of that. I dropped my forehead against his chest. But I'm scared. Scared that if I'm not perfect, everything falls apart. Scared that if I'm not the best, you won't want me anymore. Daniel let out a quiet laugh. Not mocking, just warm. He tipped my chin up with 2 fingers. Listen to me. I don't love you because you score 100s. I love you because you're you. Because your hands shake when you hold mine in the park. Because you grin like an idiot when you mess up a latte. Because you cry when you read your mom's letters. Because you wrap around me every night like you're afraid I'll disappear. A test score is the tiniest piece of you. 94, 40, whatever, you're still here. And I'm still here. Loving you. I looked up into those deep brown eyes that always made me feel like the only person in the room. More tears came, but this time they didn't hurt. They felt like relief. So, I'm allowed to not be perfect. He nodded, smile widening. Yeah, and I like you imperfect. Makes you real. Makes you mine. He tugged me down onto the bed. We sat side by side, backs against the wall. Daniel opened the laptop again, but he didn't go back to the scores. He pulled up an old folder instead. Photos from the beach right after graduation. Us laughing. Sand in our hair. Sunset turning everything gold. Look, he said. This is you. Not the 94. I leaned my head on his shoulder, laced my fingers through his. My heart was still racing, but the panic had burned out. What was left felt new. Acceptance. I whispered, "Thank you." Daniel pressed a kiss to my hair. "Don't thank me. Just stay here. With me. That's all I need." Outside the window, Columbus was starting to light up. Distant cars, the low hum of the city. The ceiling fan rattled overhead. I closed my eyes and let Daniel's warmth wrap around me completely. The last weekend of June hit Columbus like a furnace. Sun blazing, air thick and sticky, but our little 170-square-foot room felt even heavier after 2 straight days of long shifts. I woke up with my back screaming from 8 hours straight on my feet at the coffee shop. Daniel looked like he hadn't slept in a week, eyes sunken from late nights painting and framing pictures for picky customers. We stared at each other across the rumpled sheets, then said it at the exact same moment. "Let's go see your folks." Daniel gave a tired half-smile and nodded. "Yeah. I need to breathe something that isn't exhaust and acrylic fumes." We snagged the cheapest Greyhound tickets, Friday afternoon out of the downtown Columbus station, back to our small town on the edge of Ohio. The ride was a little over 2 hours. We didn't complain, just getting out of that tiny room, away from the grind of deadlines and tip jars, felt like medicine. We took the back row on the bus. Daniel leaned his head on my shoulder, eyes half closed. I watched the world slide by the window. Endless green cornfields, lonely white farmhouses, faded billboards along the highway. My hand found his under the thin jacket draped over our laps. No one stared. No need to hide. Just us and the steady hum of tires on asphalt. When the bus pulled into the little depot in town, Robert was already waiting in the parking lot. Gray t-shirt faded from too many washes, jeans worn soft, 2 bottles of cold water in his hands. The second he saw us step off, his face split into a big grin. He clapped Daniel on the shoulder, then pulled me into one of those solid, no-hesitation hugs. Like I was his kid too. "You boys finally made it. Look at you beat to hell. Get in the truck. Mom's got food waiting." Lisa was on the front porch when we pulled up. Floral apron tied around her waist, hair pinned up with a few silver strands escaping. She didn't even wait for us to climb out of the cab. She came running, arms open, and wrapped me up before Daniel even got a turn. "Oh, Michael, honey, you've gotten so skinny. Working too hard, aren't you?" I laughed, embarrassed, but let myself sink into the hug for a long second. Flour, spices, the smell of home. Stuff I never realized I'd missed this much. "I'm okay. Just tired." She pulled back, scanned me head to toe like only a mom can, then turned to Daniel and pinched his cheek. "And you, mister, are you even eating right? You look like you've been living on coffee and paint thinner." Daniel laughed, real and loud, and hugged her tight. "Mom, we're fine. Michael and I eat like kings." Inside, the house smelled like heaven. Braised short ribs in rich brown gravy, buttery mashed potatoes, garlic green beans, fresh cucumber salad. The table was already set. 4 plates. For glasses, nothing extra, nothing missing. Lisa pulled out a chair for me and immediately started loading my plate. Big slab of short ribs, heap of potatoes, beans, salad on top. She kept going until I had to laugh. "Mom, that's way too much. Eat, sweetheart. City food's all fast junk and no nutrition. Let me fill you up." Robert sat across from us, pouring orange juice for everyone. He didn't talk much, just watched Daniel and me with that quiet, steady happiness in his eyes. Daniel sat right beside me, his knee brushing mine under the table. A small, secret touch that said, "I'm here, we're good." We ate. No one grilled us about college grades. No one asked for a 5-year plan. Just easy, normal questions. "How's the coffee shop treating you? Michael, Busy day at the framing place, Daniel? You boys homesick at all? I answered honestly, about standing for 8 hours straight, the burn scars still fading on my hand, the 94 in art history that once sent me spiraling. Lisa listened, nodding, still sneaking more food onto my plate. Robert just smiled softly and said, "You're doing it. That's what counts. Don't push yourself into the ground." Daniel caught my eye while I was chewing, his gaze soft and proud. He leaned in close and whispered against my ear, "See? No one here's asking you to be perfect." After dinner, we moved to the backyard. Robert brought out cold beers. Lisa carried a tray of fresh-baked cookies still warm from the oven. We sat on the old wooden chairs, watching the sky turn fire red at the horizon. Not much talking, just sitting, breathing. I leaned my head on Daniel's shoulder. His arm slid around my waist, easy and sure. Lisa watched us, eyes shining but no tears. She just smiled, voice quiet. "I'm so glad you two found each other, and that you've got a place to come home to." I looked at her, then at Robert, then back at Daniel. Something warm and unfamiliar settled deep in my chest. Not from the food, not just from the hugs, but from finally understanding. Family doesn't have to be blood. Family is the person who piles your plate high because they want you fed. The people who don't ask why you didn't get 100. The ones who are happy just seeing you smile. I whispered to Daniel, "I love you, and I love this house, this family." He squeezed my hand tighter. Me too. Night crept in. Crickets started up. Robert stood, clapped me on the shoulder. "Get some rest. You've got the bus back to Columbus tomorrow. But listen, doors always open for you boys. Always." I nodded. Tears slipped down my cheeks. Quiet ones. Not sad. Happy. Because for the first time, coming home didn't scare me. Home wasn't just the 170-square-foot room in the city anymore. It was Lisa filling my plate, Robert's steady hand on my shoulder, Daniel holding me every night. And here I could finally be tired. I could be less than perfect. I could be loved, no strings, no conditions. I fell asleep that night with Daniel's arm around me, the ceiling fan in the guest room turning slow overhead, and for once, the weight on my chest felt light.